This is Block 9, the Liberal Establishment, Section 7, Vietnam, with the section Escalation. Along with Operation Rolling Thunder, President Johnson also orders to Vietnam the 1st American Combat Troops, the Air Mobile Division. The 101st Airborne and the 82nd Airborne are heading for Vietnam. And then he says on television that more troops will be needed later. By Christmas of 1965, 200,000 Americans were patrolling the jungles, patrolling the swamps, patrolling the rice paddies of Vietnam, searching for the guerrilla Viet Cong. Here's the VC. You can see they really don't wear military uniforms, but they are highly motivated. They are effective jungle fighters. They're excellent guerrilla warriors. And what you have now is American troops trained and designed to fight the Soviets in Western Europe, now trying to hunt down and find these guerrilla fighters in the jungles of Southeast Asia. The American full-scale involvement in Vietnam has now begun. Johnson thinks that the Viet Cong are no match for American troops. One-on-one, with all things being equal, this was true. Johnson believes in what he calls escalation, that he could apply specific pressure to the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong to make them come to the to force them back to North Vietnam, to prevent them from attacking the South. Johnson's goal, he says, is to avoid the loss of life. So he wants to start small. You know, there's some bombing, there's American troops. You know, it's like some pressure. And remember, he's now controlling this from the White House. He has kind of taken ultimate authority away from his commander on the scene, a guy by the name of William Westmoreland. But he calls it escalation, that if a little bit of pressure doesn't get the North Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, to do what he wants, he'll apply a little bit more pressure. He'll escalate the pressure. And then if that doesn't work, they'll escalate the pressure a little more. But for every increase in American troop levels, and now through 1966, Johnson now says we're going to need more troops, we're going to need more troops, we're going to need more firepower, we're going to need more bombing raids, we're going to need more helicopters. Escalate, 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 escalate. Always thinking that the next level of escalation will be the thing that finally breaks the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese. But for every increase, the Viet Cong grew more popular in the countryside. That every time, you know, the Americans kind of go through a village and accidentally kill innocent people, or Americans drop bombs and kill innocent people, they are driving people into the arms of the Viet Cong. Johnson is trying to avoid this through his policy of escalation, but it's not working. The Viet Cong are becoming more popular and more able in the arts of guerrilla warfare. They're getting very, very good at traveling underground as to avoid the bombs. They hide their supplies. They survive on handfuls of rice a day. They, know exactly where the Americans are going to hit and when. You can't tell, in the villages who's VC and who's not. It's a very difficult war for Americans on the ground in Vietnam. Remember, American troops are trained to fight the Soviets in the Fulda Gap, in Germany, in France. They're not trained for this. They get good at it. Let's not denigrate the average American soldier who adapted very, very quickly. But still, it was an adjustment, and it was difficult, and it was not what America had planned for. That American leadership was not ready for this. And everything was kind of as you go, seat of your pants flying. As the Americans, as the Americans got more and more involved, the South Vietnamese, we were supposed to be fighting for, got less and less involved in the war. The ARVN is even more corrupt than it ever has been. Now that Ngo Dinh Diem is gone, he was never replaced by anybody effective. Governments in Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, come and go at astonishing rapidity, as more and more incompetent strongmen simply take control of the South Vietnamese government, only to be replaced weeks or months later. But America's now stuck. That the logic of the domino theory is one of the things that makes it stuck. Let's go back. Let's go back to domino theory for a minute here. That means the next one. There it is. That the logic of the domino theory says, look, now we're stuck in this bit of a mess in Vietnam. But if we leave now, Vietnam will fall, and then Laos will fall, and Cambodia will fall, and then India will fall. So that's a big reason kind of keeping us there. Another thing that's keeping us there is the fact that we have commitments to other countries all around the world. We have commitments to defend Taiwan, we have commitments to defend Israel, we have commitments to defend Western Europe, we have commitments to defend Latin America. And if the United States pulls out of one country that it has a commitment to defend, the moral hazard here is that other countries are going to say, ugh, the United States is no longer to be trusted. That American guarantees, that the United States has guaranteed South Vietnam. And if America leaves now, other countries for whom the United States has commitments are going to feel that the United States might not be so up and up on those commitments. The fear is that the Soviet Union will take advantage of that and start pushing and prodding to see just where American commitments might not have been as strong as they were before Vietnam. That's the second reason. The third reason is basic American anti-communism. We don't want the communists to win. And of course, number 4 is just basic pride. The United States has never lost a war. The United States has never, retreated its troops, not in victory. So the United States, people are saying, how the hell do we lose to these people? These peasants, these rice farmers. It starts to get a little racial. These gooks, they're called. So there's a pride element to it that keeps the United States fighting. One of the early main battles was at a place called Khe Sanh. U.S. Marines fought the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army for months, outnumbered. And one-on-one, soldier to soldier, no one's better than the American troops. That, the Marines are surrounded for months and still hold off against the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese. But in the end, the air base is evacuated. And the sacrifice and the defense of the Marines at Khe Sanh was almost for nothing. But it did kind of give Americans the hope that, look, once we get enough troops there, we can win this thing. That our troops are good, our troops are better, and that if we just, carry it on through, we can win. We can still win. We can be victorious.